Okay, it's 5:30, so welcome everybody to the Ottumwa City Council meeting. I'm going to call our meeting to order, and if everybody would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Here.
Councilmember Galloway?
Here.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Here.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Here.
Councilmember Cavanis?
Here.
Mayor Johnson?
Here. The next item is our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanis?
Yes.
Before we go further in our city council meeting, one of the things that we had in our consent agenda tonight was a proclamation for May of 2024 being Mental Health Month. So I would like to read this proclamation that we're going to present to Brittany Hoover. Is she here? Okay. If you want to go ahead and come on up. Okay. Whereas 1 in 5 adults experience mental health struggles in any given year, and in 20 United States, adults experience serious mental illnesses each year. 50% of all lifetime mental illnesses begin by age 14 and 75% by age 24. Whereas significant delays, sometimes decades, often occur between the time symptoms first appear and when individuals get help. Whereas early identification and treatment and community support can make a profound difference in the successful management of mental illness and recovery. Whereas it is important to maintain mental health and learn the symptoms of mental health conditions so individuals and their families can reach out for help when it's needed. Whereas every citizen and community can make a difference in helping end the shame, misconceptions, and stigmas that have surrounded mental illness and deterred individuals and their families from receiving help. Whereas public education and civic activities can encourage mental health and help improve the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness. Whereas each business, school government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizen has a responsibility to promote mental health and being fit for all, and well-being for all, excuse me. Now therefore, I, Richard W. Johnson, Mayor of City of Ottumwa, proclaim May 2024 as Mental Health Month in Ottumwa, Iowa. I also call upon the citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Ottumwa to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illness. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Do you want to just, Brittany, do you briefly want to just mention to who's here, who you're associated with or who you represent?
So I am here with NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, South Central Iowa. So we cover 11 regions, Wapello being one of those regions. We offer free support groups for families and individuals with mental health conditions. And my office is here at Southern Iowa Mental Health Center. So, yeah. Thank you.
We really appreciate all that NAMI does. Okay, the next item on our city council agenda is to approve tonight's city council agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Mayor and city council members, in light of some additional items being included in the lease between the city and Amtrak, it is advisable to remove this item from the agenda. So I would recommend approving the agenda with the removal of item I-8.
Second.
Bill seconded. Okay, is there any further discussion? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanis?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, the next item is the city administrator's report to council and citizens, so I'll turn it over to Phil Rath.
Well, thank you. I am going to keep this brief. We have a number of financial type issues on the agenda tonight, and I think that's going to take up a little bit of our time. So I am going to just not have anything specific to report tonight.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is when I ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on any of tonight's agenda items that are listed on our city council agenda. If you want to speak, I need to have you fill out one of those little white forms over there by Police Chief Farrington. It's an optional thing, you don't have to speak, but I always ask if anybody does want to speak on any agenda items tonight. Okay, if not, we'll keep moving forward. We've got 3 public hearings, so I'll have Chris start with the first one.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the certification of taxes and fiscal year 24-25 annual city budget.
Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing, and I believe our Finance Director, Cole O'Donnell, is going to cover this.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. The fiscal year 25 budget is ready. Some notes to begin with. Once this is approved, I will print off cleaner copies. I was rushing to get some stuff done, so some of the items are on 2 separate pages where they need to be on 1 page. So I'll clean those up. Also, when we get to the summaries, I want you to note that Administrator Rath and I have spoken, and that we hope that in the future that we're able to give some more in-depth information, things such as financial trends, things such as future lookouts, and also perhaps getting some better organization for our capital projects. When we talk about the budget amendment later on, a lot of the changes were due to capital projects and the timing and other things, and we think that with some better planning, we wouldn't have to have such big increases or decreases in different areas. We would know what was coming forward. But anyway.
Can we get a little bit of light?
Sorry. I didn't mean to put Cole in the dark.
No.
Get your screen there. Turn that one off and then pull the switch up. This one? Yeah, pull that switch up. They turn off the other one. That works?
Or down, push down.
That's not good. No, that's
Turn the other light on.
the other one.
There you go, now try it.
Well, you know what?
Okay,
We'll go with what we got.
now
Yeah, we were just trying to find the ones up here. Yeah. There we go. All right. Oh, there we go. All right. Oh, I see. All right. But I do have the laser pointer. Okay. So this is our first budget since the passage of House File 718. This combines several levies into one consolidated levy. And we were levying for library and civic center. In addition, we will also lose the emergency levy. Those revenues will be gone, and we'll have to find ways to make up the expenditures that those funded. In fiscal year 2028, we'll need to reduce our levy by about 47 cents in order to get to the new consolidated 810 limit. Another factor that hit us this year was the residential rollback dropped drastically. As you know, in 2021 and into 2022, the housing market was booming. Valuations went up, skyrocketed. But because of the rollback, they took that valuation from that we can tax on residential properties from 54% down to 46%. I don't know what the projection is for next year. There's still, I can tell you when trying to find a house that things are being on the market for a matter of hours and being bought up. So we still may see a dramatic drop or a further drop in the rollback in coming years. For property taxes in fiscal year 25, the total asking is $14,373,233. That is a levy rate of 20.80779 per thousand of taxable valuation, and that is down from fiscal year 24 of an asking of 21.201106 per thousand of taxable valuation. Some of that is due to the compression of the tax rates and the levy rates, but is also part of the effort that you and the staff have been working on as a trend over the last few years to reduce the levy rate, which we'll show at the end. We do show taxable valuations are up from 625,000 to 682,000. That is an 8.68 increase in taxable valuations. Not having been here from the start, I know there was a provision in 718 that would cap our growth at 3%. Evidently, that's not going to be implemented until 2028, or I don't know. I'll have to check on that. But we did have a taxable growth of 8.68%, and it resulted in a revenue growth of 5.31%. Total revenues are $79,389,013 against total expenditures of $89,953,367. That difference is made up using reserves for projects. We do have a lot of projects, and we have designated funds within our reserves to go to those projects. It should be noted that the general fund is projected to have a $250,000 shortfall. It should be noted that the general fund, while it increased by $745,000, the offset in expenditures of $1,132,573, with the largest expense increases coming in police, fire, and parks. Okay. And when we get into it further, you'll see that some of those areas are the highest portions of our general fund budget, but it's also the highest portion of just about everybody's budget. There was a Des Moines Register article about Des Moines' budget, and 53% of their general fund budget was going to police and fire. It is the heaviest when it comes to personnel, and is an essential service that cannot be just not done. So, oh, right there. All right. One of the things that is in the budget packet, it is an explanation of the funds. What people don't realize sometimes is that we don't just get money in and it all goes into one account. It goes into several different pots, and even in some of those pots, there are smaller pots within. So such as the general fund, when you see some of the consolidated statements, funds 001, 002, 003, and 005 are lumped together because anything that has a 00 in front of it is a general fund. We account for those funds separately within our accounting system, but when it comes to the state, they're all recognized as a general fund. Special revenues, those are funds 110 through 177. So again, these are the smaller pots within, and that includes road use tax, employee benefits, local option sales and service tax, TIF, and risk management. Debt service sits on its own. We have capital funds with funds 301 to 315, but there isn't 15 or 16 accounts there because we do skip some numbers. The permanent funds is the cemetery perpetual care, and there's restrictions on what you can and can't do with those funds. Proprietary funds or enterprise funds are 610 through 750, and then we have internal service funds that are not included in the operational budget because we are basically moving money from one to the other to pay for internal services. Okay. So when we look at our revenues here, and you'll see that if revenue by sources. So the sources that the state allows us are listed on the side here. And that the largest source is property tax at 18%. The next largest source is charges for services, which you would expect with having landfill and the sewer and recycling. So those all come under the charges for services, no matter what fund they're in. So this is the other thing is that the state breaks this down, and this does not matter what fund they go into, it's by the source. The state wants to know the source. But then they also do by fund or program. And so then over here you'll see that the largest amount of revenue coming in is under our general fund with over $20 million worth of receipts. But again, that includes not only what you would consider the normal general fund, which is 001, but the franchise fees, local option sales tax, and ARPA funds, though there is no ARPA funds coming in this year.
I have
Yes,
a
sir.
question. Besides looking at past historical usage, how do you go about projecting revenues for the next fiscal year? Because this is all projections at this point.
Correct. Well, some of it's projections and some of it's not. When you look at property tax, that's set.
Right.
Okay. When you look at some of the other things, other city taxes is the local option service and sales tax and franchise fees. And what you have to do is you get some information from the Iowa League of Cities that will give you some of, hey, this is what you should expect on some things, and they give you some trends. But what you have to do is you have to look back at some of the history. You have to account for in that history if there was any legislative changes along the way. 2020 when COVID hit, your local option sales tax went down. So you look at all those factors. What I like to do is take a 10-year average and kind of base that on a 10-year average of where we're going to be at. What I will tell you is that a lot of the revenues that you see up there flatten out. There's a not completely flat, but their growth is not exponential. It's a slow growth, anywhere between a little over 0% to maybe 2-3% at the most. So one of the other items that are up here, what you see over here is other financing sources, and that's 31% of our budget for revenues. So what's in other, I broke it out, so what other financing sources are, these are proceeds of asset sales, proceeds of debt, regular transfers in, and so this is money that goes from fund to fund, but we have to count it. It's not necessarily additional revenue. It is revenue that may come into general fund and needs to be transferred over to another fund, or comes into sewer and needs to go into a sewer capital project or something like that. And so that's what that is. So it's not really it's not money that's actually coming in, but you still have to count it as revenue. Okay.
May I have a question, please?
Yes, sir.
Under your other financial sources, that amount equals the internal total for other sources on the other side. So are you telling me that we got $25 in this hand, we'll have $25 in this hand? What are you
No,
telling
sir.
me?
This part right here is a breakout of this line here. I
Okay.
broke it out so that you can understand more of what's in that line item, because you see $25 million and 31%,
Great.
right?
Now I
Well,
understand. Thank you.
that's what you got over here.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right. Now, some people are visual. This didn't come through in full color. But what you'll see is some of the different spaces here. And, of course, this is going to be your other financing sources. This will be your property tax. And then the other parts, when you get your printed budget, this will be in full color. So you'll be able to see it a little better. We will also put it on the website, the complete budget, and it'll be in full colors there. Well, yes, sir.
It would be helpful for me if you could put a letter or a number by the identifier and that part of the disc.
I will do that.
It doesn't make any difference how much color you show me, I can't see it.
Okay. And I normally do. The problem is that it got really busy, so I took it off, but I will put it back on for you.
I understand, thank you.
Okay, certainly. So the next one is here by fund, and you're going to see the general fund, and you're going to see the enterprise funds are the two largest there. And again, it's hard to tell with this. I should have, we should have gotten it in full color, but didn't. But anyway, I'll also put the markers on that as well. So,
Thank you.
but so if we drill down to probably one of our most important funds, because this is where a lot of our services come out of, is the general fund revenues. And over 52% of our general fund revenues come from property tax. So you see that up there where you see it's 27%, but when you go down to the transfers in, you're getting transfers in that include property tax for employee benefits. And the amount of employee benefit coming in is right around that other equal to the property tax here of $5 million, almost $6 million. So when you add the two together, general property tax is 52% of the general fund revenue. So this is why we kind of break that out, because when people start talking about what do my taxes pay for, this is the fund where it gets paid for. This also includes $465,000 or 10% of the revenues coming from local option sales tax. And when it comes to franchise fees, we're still kind of doing some prediction on what is going to be coming in. So some of the numbers that we had currently, we have not received the third quarter payment, which will be for January, February, and March. What you will see when those come in is that electric might be down from like the very first quarter payment would be, because that's, there's not as much electric usage during those months, but you'll see gas coming in higher than what you would during a summer month. So there are those fluctuations. I believe when I looked at the projections, we're still on target. It's just that we're just a little below what those targets were. But again, because of the fluctuation on usage, I think at the end we'll come out very close to what we budgeted or over.
There might be some people here that don't understand what the franchise fee is and how it was arrived at. Can you just real
Sure.
briefly explain that?
So the city, through our franchise agreements with Alliant Energy and Midwest Energy for gas, we impose a 3% franchise fee on the cost or the billings to the customers, and that 3% goes into a fund, and then we use it for specific purposes. We did pass a revenue purpose statement stating what we can use it for. Support of police and fire is at the very top. So the estimated $1.6 million helps to offset some of the cost of police and fire, which again is an essential service. There's also some other things in there that it can be used for, but with the amount that we get, that really just helps to offset police and fire expenses.
And for citizens and businesses in Ottumwa, that franchise fee started in January of 2023.
Correct. Started in January 2023, so this will be our first full fiscal year of receipt.
And does that 3% cover residential as well as business?
It's 3% for all customers. So, and that's gas and electric.
And it is residential and business both.
It's residential, business, and nonprofit. That's one thing that should be noted, is that nonprofit organizations are exempt from property tax. we still have to provide services to them. This is a way that they kind of help pay some of their share in being able to provide the franchise fees, like I said, helping provide essential services of police and fire. Okay. So again, we look at this, and you'll see the breakdown. Property tax is going to be your largest, and then the other breakdowns, I will put that on so you get a color version. I don't know why I sent it to you in color. Yeah, I thought I sent it to you in color. So I apologize, but I will make sure then the printed copies that it's easier for you to read. And again, we'll have this on the website for citizens. I think that what we've had in the past has not been nearly as in-depth as some of this, so we want to make sure we get this out so that people have a better understanding of where their money's coming from and where it's going. So now we get to expenses. And again, what they do is state you have it broken down by fund. So again, the general fund is going to have several different funds within it. Special revenues is going to have several different funds, and capital projects are going to have several different funds within, and so is enterprise. But then what they do is they break it down by program. The state says, okay, how much are you spending on public safety, public works, and those things? So this is across all funds. This isn't just out of the general fund or out of the enterprise fund or anything like that. What it is you'll see that public safety is 12.68 of our expenditures. Public works is 12.89, so they're very close together. But public works will include road use tax and will also include any road capital projects that are paid out of special revenues, specifically relating to public works. There's the capital projects, and those are lumped together, and then the enterprise funds of sewer, garbage, recycle are all in there. Other financing uses, again, you see this. This will match the revenue number exactly. If it doesn't match exactly, so these are our transfers out. The others were our transfers in between funds. If they don't match up exactly, the state throws an error and says you can't submit your budget. So these are matched exactly. But if you look at special revenues, road use tax is $8.3 million. Employee benefits is $4.9 million. Local option sales tax is $4.6 million. Tax increment financing is $1.28 million. Airport is $1.7. Library is $0.9 million, and cemetery is $500,000, rounding. So that's what makes up the special revenues, because you see $29 million being spent there, but a lot of it is those expenditure funds. Okay. And there's our expenditures by fund. The big piece of pie there, special revenues, and then the others broken down. And this is expenditures by program. Again, it's hard to read, but we'll have that broken down for you and broken out. So there is some visuals that you can look at. So again, we break out the general fund expenses. Again, this is where most of our services are. You'll see that our public safety expense is almost 50% of our budget, which is typical, as I said. In other communities that I've been in where we've had a police department, fire department, you're darn near 50% or over 50%. What that includes is police, dispatch, fire, animal control, public safety grants, levy, and parking enforcement. So all those are included in public safety. In future years, we will fully include the library and the event center within the general fund somehow, whether it is transferring money out of general fund into support those funds, or paying for those departments directly out of the general fund. And when we look at the impact of 718, it doesn't matter what you do later on tonight with the local option sales and service tax. We're still going to have to make reductions. Later on with the service tax, which we're asking for an increase to the general fund, what it means is that the reductions may not have to be as much, but there are still going to have to be reductions because we're going to lose 47 cents of our levy, which is $450,000. And we'll get another one of my black and white charts, but this one's a little easier because this big black part here is public safety. Okay. So then when we come to balances, we reduced our cash balances by $9,315,489, but a lot of that is using reserves to pay for capital expenses. We do have continue to have a deficit in the debt service, but we are actually levying an amount to rectify that over several years. And I know that Councilmember Galloway had some questions.
I do, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am looking at this, and then if you, in the packet, so if you're looking online, the packet page 40, page 39, or if you're looking in the big binder, it's page 6. The ending fund balance for 2024 is about $3.5 million, which is different than what we have right there.
Right. So what we have fiscal year ending 2024 here is basically 4.5 million. The previous financial director, we believe, did not accurately report the ending fund balances for 23, which gives us an incorrect beginning balance for fiscal year 24. Once those reports are submitted as part of the AFR, the annual financial report, the state puts them into their system. We can't change them. So when we do the annual financial report for fiscal year 24, I'm going to be talking with the Department of Management on how we can correct that. What you see here is accurate in that the interim finance director, she went through and she balanced things out and got things corrected. So what we see as the fiscal 24 beginning balance should be accurate, and the ending fund balance of 24 again is projected based upon some of the changes that we're making with the budget amendment at May 7th. But this column here is accurate, and if our estimates are spot on, then these will be more accurate at the end.
Okay. And so then I guess it would be the same question for FY 25, I'm sorry. So for those following at home, it's
Yes.
Page 42 in the packet. It shows an ending fund balance for June 30th of 2.8 million, and then
Here we got 3.3.
correct. Yep.
Correct.
And then
Yeah.
if I just to clarify too, when I go to like further in this budget packet, I see that you got this chart from the
Yeah.
further in our budget packet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. In the budget packet, there is a breakout of all of the sub funds underneath any of these. So when you go to the packet and you look at the summary for balances, you'll see 001, 002, 003, and 005 broken out as far as their beginning, ending, and projected balances. Same with special revenues and capital projects and the enterprise funds. Those are broken out so you know what each one has in it expected to spend, expected to receive, expected to spend, and what we project to be the ending balance.
Do you know what the reserve ratio is? I know that, or I don't know, but I think my projection is if I look at the state forms that don't reflect these numbers, it's under
Right.
15%. Do you know what our reserve ratio is?
I believe I don't know offhand, real quick, of what the reserve ratio is. I can get that number for you and get it out to all of you. Okay. I hadn't calculated that, so. Okay.
Cole, I have one other
Yes, sir.
question. The council is going to have to meet during the month of May to determine what city projects the departments heads have submitted that they want to bond for next fiscal year. Since those decisions haven't been made yet, how does that expense get factored into this budget?
What it is I believe that the bonding amount is entered into this budget based upon the requests. If there are projects that are removed from the request, then the bonding amount will either be lowered, but I think that the way we're moving, I think that what it is the bonding amount will still be the same, it's just we'll have excess capital funds.
Yeah, so the council had previously established the pre-levy, and that's what was used in as far as for the next year's fiscal budget.
Right.
So if any projects are removed from that consideration, that would adjust the future payments, but it shouldn't affect next year's payment. That was just that 1 year, that first year.
Right. Okay. So now we get into drilling down on some of our valuations and levies. What you see on this side is a 10-year analysis of our 100% valuations. And there are some peaks and valleys in this, and that the 100% valuation has increased and decreased at different times. What you see here in 2017, I can't remember what the legislature did in 2017, but I think that there was a change there that affected part of that levy or part of the valuations. What I can tell you is, the 2020 valuations are affected by COVID. And then you see these other increases here. My understanding is that our county assessor had not done a reevaluation in years, so some of that may be reflected in those 100% valuations. What you'll see over here for our taxable valuations is a lot more peaks and valleys. And when I get to the graphs, you'll see the difference there. You can see that in 14, we lost taxable valuation. In 17, we lost a lot of taxable valuation. In 19 and in 22, we've lost taxable valuation. Now, we had a significant increase in 21, and we had a decent increase in 23 valuations, which is for this fiscal year. So we're always behind, right? So this is our valuation for the current fiscal year. So you see that we've had that, but notice the difference. You saw a 20% increase in 100% valuations, which only equated to a little under 8% increase in taxable valuations. That is due to all the different mechanisms that the state has put on the property tax system. Okay. So here again, this is a much better visual of what you see. Again, a few of these peaks and valleys, but what you see with these 100% valuations, you see them skyrocketing. Okay. What you don't see on this side is sometimes a similar skyrocket. You do here, but in these years here, where you're seeing maybe a little bit of a dip or an increase, we're not increasing as much. And so that's where we're hurt. I can tell you that 30 years ago when I started, the residential rollback was at 65%. We're now at 46%. And that is one of the biggest challenges to local governments, is how to maintain services while your taxable valuations are not keeping up with the actual assessed value of properties. So here's our 10-year levy history. Certainly you see, you know, we're here in 2013, 2014. We take a jump up, we take a jump down, and then you see this steady increase until 2020. Then we level off, and over the last 5 years, we have worked to gradually bring that down. We are almost to 2014 levy rates. So when somebody says, hey, you're spending too much, you're taxing us too much, you can show them this, that we have been cutting, we have been fiscally responsible, because we keep lowering our levy. Now, what I'll tell you is this jump here between 24 and 25 was forced upon us, but even without that, I think the plan was to bring that down even further, maybe not as much. So staff and council has been working to bring down our levy rates. Now, somebody says, yeah, but my taxes still went up. What they have to realize is that their valuations may have gone up. We might be able to lower our levy rate but still receive the same amount of money because valuations went up. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. But we're doing our part by bringing down the levy to just what we need. Okay? So here's a comparison of other similar sized communities. What you will see with Ottumwa being here, and it isn't clear on this one, but we have the highest total levy rate out of all the cities, but it should be noted that we have the lowest taxable valuation rate, or taxable valuations, of any of the cities. So we have to have our levy higher in order to bring in the dollars necessary, or comparable dollars, to some of these other communities that, if you look here, that Mason City is almost double our valuation. So Mason City does have the benefit of being close enough to Clear Lake that some of their properties are coveted because people can just then hop over to Clear Lake. And if you include the population of Clear Lake in with the population of Mason City, they have a larger population, which allows them to have more commercial and industrial businesses there because they have the workforce and the retail draw. So, what I also did was I calculated our cost per employee. Our employees are our most valuable resource and our highest expense. So it's good to know how much our employees cost us. In the general fund, the average is $107,932 of wages and benefits per employee, and that's based upon 124.08 FTEs, full-time equivalents. Road use tax, $96,907. with 29.63 FTEs, and then all others is the way that it's grouped in the report that I get, is $72,633 with 63.83 FTEs. And remember that in some of these funds here, we use part-time and seasonal help, and so that draws those down just a little bit because it raises the total FTEs. But on a grand total, our average salary and benefits is $96,073.29, based upon 217.54 FTEs.
Cool. I really appreciate this slide. I think it just brings kind of a big picture to what the general fund is doing too, but our budget overall, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
What's our total number of employees?
Well, we have a total of 217.54 FTEs, so full-time equivalents. But again, included in that is Anybody that's half-time, part-time, so on, those lines. But that's what we currently employ is that 217 FTEs.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Cole, is management employees, are they in this figure too?
Yes.
Okay.
And in the budget packet that I'll be presenting to you, there is a full breakdown by department, and we include everybody in that.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And that'll be included, again, when we get it up on the website. But I'm waiting for it to be approved so it doesn't have draft at the top. It has approved, so. All right, so with that, any other further questions? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Since this was a public hearing, did anybody in the audience have any questions for Mr. O'Donnell? And council didn't have any other questions? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
Resolution number 80, 2024, certifying taxes and fiscal year 24-25 annual city budget for the city of Ottumwa. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 80, 2024.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the disposition of city-owned property located at 413 North Birch to David Osorio.
I'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and I believe Zach Simonson, our Community Development Director, is going to handle this.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. The property at 413 North Birch was acquired by the city under an action taken under Iowa Code Section 657A, where we take title to abandoned property. The city solicited bids until 2 p.m. on March 28th, and we received 7 bids. David Osorio submitted the best bid in the amount of $18,000, and staff recommends accepting the bid. One thing I do want to note just for both of these is we did get really good participation. We had a high number of bids on both of these, and I think some credit for that goes to Travis sharing these bid packets, and also the staff in my office has been really good at answering questions and holding the public house and helping people get a chance to look at these. But the bids on these continue to get better. In this program, we used to routinely, be giving away houses for $3,000 or so, and this helps to offset the costs that we do into legal, but it also helps to get some other things done when we're able to turn a little bit of a profit on this program. So.
Does council have any questions for Zach? Since this is a public hearing, does anyone in the audience have any questions that they'd like to ask Mr. Simonson regarding this issue? If not, I'd go ahead and entertain a motion then to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
Resolution number 95, 2024, accepting the bid and approving the disposal of 413 North Birch, Ottumwa, Iowa, to David Osorio for the sum of $18,000. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 95, 2024.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the disposition of city-owned property located at 1140 North Elm Street to David Osorio.
I'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and Zach's going to also handle this.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This property at 1140 North Elm we acquired in the same way as the last one, and we accepted bids for these both on the same day until 2 p.m. on March 28th, and we received 10 bids on this one. David Osorio was also the winning bidder here with $18,000, and staff recommends accepting that bid. We don't have any concern about these two getting completed, but we are going to look in the future about possibly limiting the number that anyone can purchase at the same time. We've had some cases where that's caused projects to stall, but we've also had other cases where people have the resources to do a lot of projects at the same time. So we're not really sure how to do that without limiting out what could be potentially good bids. So we're going to continue to look at that. The other thing I'll say as well is that we do have 2 more houses that are coming out soon for additional bids. We try to separate them a little bit so we don't flood the opportunity and drive the price down. But we are going to have 2 more coming out. I'd look for those bid packets to come out in the next week or so. And then we do have about 12 that are working through the process. So we're going to be having several of these in the future.
That's great to hear.
Does council have any questions for Zach?
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Since this is
Good
a
staff.
public hearing, does anyone in the audience have any questions for Mr. Simonson? If not, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
Resolution number 96, 2024, accepting the bid and approving the disposal of 1140 North Elm Street to David Osorio for the sum of $18,000. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 96, 2024.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
Ordinance number 3221, 2024, an ordinance to reestablish and continue the downtown Ottumwa self-supported municipal improvement district pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 386, Code of Iowa, and providing for the continuation of certain funds and the levy of annual taxes in connection therewith. Recommendation passed the second consideration of ordinance number 3221, 2024.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Okay, Zach.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So this is the second consideration of this ordinance. We've previously had a previous consideration, also a public hearing. We also received the petition at a council meeting, and then there was also a plan and zoning public hearing on this matter as well. So I'm going to be a little bit brief, but I will talk about it a little bit for the folks that are hearing the first time. We did receive a petition to renew the downtown SMID district. It's a self-supporting municipal improvement district. It levies a special tax on properties in the downtown district, and those tax funds can be used for projects that benefit that district as determined by a committee. The SMID's been pretty successful so far. It's done quite a few projects. Some of those are listed in the packet, but they included the electric maintenance cart for Main Street Ottumwa, the trash enclosures for some of the parking lots in the district businesses, the dog waste bags by trash cans, ashtrays. The Business Builder Academy had support from that as well. So the petition did include the required 25% of property owners and the required owners who represent at least 25% of value. It's also had a notice sent to everyone and all these sorts of things to give people plenty of opportunity to weigh in. We've had pretty strong support from people. The petition included much more than 25% in both categories. And going through plan and zoning and things, we do recommend continuing this through to the third consideration and ultimately adopting it.
Is there any questions from council for Zach?
Just to clarify, you've not received any notice since our last meeting, right?
No, we haven't received any petitions or other comments or notices. In the course of this whole thing, we've had maybe just a couple of property owners come in with questions, but we haven't had anyone that's come to speak at a public hearing or come to even talk to me directly opposed. So,
Fred Zeziger, our Main Street Director, is here tonight. Fred, did you have anything you wanted to add? Thanks. Any other questions, comments from council for Zach? If not, Chris will go ahead and take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
We have no departmental, board, or commission recommendations or reports tonight, so we'll move to resolutions.
Resolution number 81, 2024, requesting a special election on the imposition of a new local option sales and services tax in the amount of 1% and specifying the purposes to which the revenues shall be applied. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 81, 2024.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you. The local option sales and service tax is set to expire December 31, 2025. To extend the tax, a referendum will need to be held. Staff would like to provide ample time to ensure passage of the measure and is recommending a special election on September 3rd, 2024. Ballot language must be submitted to the county auditor no less than 90 days prior to the election. By passing the resolution tonight, we more than meet that, and it gives us adequate time to get everything set up with the county. During the special city council meeting of March 26, 2024, the council directed staff to prepare a resolution setting the date of the special election for September 3rd, 2024. A distribution of the tax would be 20% to property tax relief and 80% to streets and sewer repairs. The language does not change the amount of sales tax. It is capped at 1%. So we're not asking any more of the citizens. All we're asking is that we're allowed to redistribute some of those funds to different areas. Distribution of funds are currently set at 90-10 between street and sewers and property tax relief. The reason for the 80-20 asking is to provide additional funds to the general fund due to the current and future revenue loss as a result of House File 718. By fiscal year 28, the consolidated general fund levy must be reduced from its current rate of 8.51942 to a flat 810 per thousand. Over the last 5 years, Ottumwa's taxable valuations have seen steady growth of 2.5%. However, tax year 2021 and 2023 showed increases of over 8%, with tax year 2022 having a reduction of 5.61%. In the original assumption that I presented, I assumed a valuation growth of 1.75%. When I did the 10-year average, I got an average of 1.87%. So I think that the 1.7 is probably conservative enough to go to make some of these projections. So assuming that a valuation growth of 1.75 and the consolidated general fund levy remaining at 8.51942, general fund property tax revenues for 2027 are estimated to be $6,132,156. Okay, so that's if we kept everything constant, which we are not proposing to do. With the consolidated levy reduced to 810, property tax is estimated to be $5,932,293. That is based upon, again, the 1.75% valuation growth. With all else remaining constant, so we're still getting the same amount of money from all other revenue sources. Revenue would not return to fiscal year 27 levies until fiscal year 30. No estimates on expenditure growth were done at this time. However, a growth rate of 2.9% is assumed based upon current CPI. Expenditure growth will outpace our revenue growth. An increase in the local option sales tax percentage to the general fund is recommended, with proposed language as discussed. So the summary: to authorize imposition of a local sales and service tax in the city of Ottumwa, Iowa, at the rate of 1% to be effective January 1, 2025 until December 31st, 2035. A local sales and service tax shall be imposed in the city of Ottumwa at the rate of 1%, being effective from January 1, 2025 until December 20, 2035, with proposed revenues allocated in the following manner: 20% for property tax relief and 80% for street improvements and sewer improvements. And as I mentioned in the budget presentation, even by doing this, we are still going to face reductions in the general fund. We are going to incur greater expenses in the general fund in order to fund the Bridgeview Center and the library, who were receiving subsidies through their own levies. So we have to assume those expenses somewhere. So we're going to have an increase in pressure upon the general fund to meet expenditures, and even with this change, it makes it easier to find the necessary funds to make that up, but we're still going to face reductions somewhere.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
I do not recall that there was a consensus at that meeting to use the 80-20 numbers.
I do recall that we said that we would, because he needed to have language, and so it was identified that we weren't voting during the special meeting and that further discussion would occur today, but he needed direction on what to bring forward today. So there was a consensus for the direction, but obviously we were in a work session, so we weren't voting.
Right, and so we were, as staff is expecting there to be discussion on the split. But we brought this forth as part of this. If the council so chooses to change it, they would just offer an amendment to the resolution, setting the proportion the way they would like. We also presented it with a 20-year term. Previous ones have been a 10. That can also be amended if you want. Staff, would be hesitant to go because it becomes cumbersome and having to make predictions to go below the 10 years. Because if you go 5 years, then we have to cycle through again. It also should be noted that if in the future we feel that we need to adjust that proportion, all we have to do is call for another special election and then adjust that proportion.
I would like to make a recommendation that that amount be 90-10, as it has been.
So I guess I would ask, who are we cutting? What police officers, what firefighters, what are we cutting? Because
Well,
something has to be
maybe
cut.
we should just figure out where we could save some money and not cut personnel.
So that's what I'm asking. Where are we saving? What are we cutting? Because
Until tonight, I didn't know that we were gonna go another direction. So I don't have an answer for you, but my answer is, we need to start saving money, not spending money. And we need to continue, I don't have any problem with the duration of this request, but I do have a problem with the 80-20.
And I guess when you say reduction in the general fund, what does that mean?
What I can tell you is that we have been making attempts to reduce and costs. You know, the number of positions over the years has been significantly reduced. When we look at it, you know, as I pointed out there, our highest cost in the general fund is personnel. Personnel also equals services. The thing is even though we'll have less money in the general fund, we'll still have the same number of parks, same acreage of parks that we'll have to care for. We'll still have a library that has to be open. We will still have services that need to be provided for public safety. We will still have all of these same costs. We will look at every way we can to economize, but if it comes down to it, again, our biggest expenditure is personnel, and if we really want to reduce to where we do, it will mean a reduction in personnel, which will result in a change in services.
So I have a question, and this is for Administrator Rath and Financial Director O'Donnell. Where are we overspending? We've just worked on this budget. Where are we overspending that we could save money? Because when I hear reduction, my question goes back to Councilperson Cavanagh. What are we cutting? We've heard that to save money, that comes with our biggest personnel, or our biggest thing is our personnel or services. And in, what was it, 2019, 2020, that the fire department was cut 6 officers? Or 6 firefighters. We brought 3 back on. I think that the police department has had cuts and we've never gotten back to, maybe we haven't filled positions? 2 positions. And so I'm not trying to point out those specific, but it seems like those are the places that we kind of start cuts. I think Mr. Simonson's department has people cut, or we haven't been full staff. So that's where I guess I'm coming from.
Yeah, I'd say we've been, and Cole's only been here, he hadn't really had much of a thumbprint on this particular budget, but over the last few years since I've been here, we have been trying to reduce anything that was not essential as part of that. But when you get down to providing services, you're talking about your personnel costs, you're talking about your equipment, you're talking about your training. One of the things the past councils have talked about is succession planning. So there is an amount of training that goes into that. Those are soft costs. Could we reduce more in some of those soft cost areas? Certainly, but you're further putting things behind when you're talking about training people up into the next position, trying to get people prepared and ready to take a role when that opens up, to look at recruitment and retention. We had the wage study that was done a year plus ago, and getting employees into those wages, there's a cost with that. So it gets to the point where you are looking at, the city is looking at, what services are we looking to not get by? The 40 cents that we're going to be squeezed over the next 4 years after this year, there's a cost to that. And I think you estimated that about $500,000 roughly in today's dollars.
Yeah.
But that's the cost for today's services. We've got an agreement with Bridgeview coming up that is going to be looking at. That is part of that's getting squeezed in. The library is getting squeezed into that, and so we're talking cutting services.
Because our library has some fund or some endowments that help support some of that too. So we're lucky in that matter. But if those
Correct.
ever were to go away, we'd have more of those costs too.
Certainly, and so that 27 cents that was going to the library, that was on top of the $8.10. I mean, the city was still giving more money above that 27 cents from the general fund. That all gets absorbed into that, and so now you're looking at whether it's library and reducing hours that it's open to fit staffing. Parks has been down a number of staffing, and we basically had eliminated staff across all those areas until it got into public safety. And prior to my arrival, the 6 firefighters were on there. Like you said, we were able to add 3 back, but when you're providing of the services and the level of services, there's a cost to all of that.
Mr. O'Donnell, I believe I was in your office the other day and recommended that we go through departments and see what equipment and materials they have that they don't need, that they could dispose of or not reorder on. There are other things that we can do. I don't like this words, we're gonna cut people right away. Fire policemen, fire people. No. That's not where we're going. There are other areas that we can look at. And I'm only one member of this council. If there's anybody else on the council that wants to make comment, I invite them to do so.
And in any of my statements, I says we have to make reductions, right? And I've also said that we are looking for efficiencies. We're looking at ways to reduce costs. There's other ideas out there. I've said that all along, no matter what your position is in the city, 95% of it is plagiarism and 5% is inspiration, right? So there's somebody out there that has done a program or has looked at equipment purchasing or something like that that can improve efficiency. So yes, we will look at that first, right? The last thing we want to do is start cutting people, because that really does start cutting services. I have not had a chance to do that, but as something that myself and every department head is going to have to sit down and do once we get past some of this other stuff of tonight, so that we can look and say, do we need this number of vehicles? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? And when we work on our capital improvement plan, which I really want to get a nice capital improvement plan, it's not going to be anything wishes. It's going to be needs only. And so if you say, I need this vehicle, you better justify why you need that vehicle, okay? If it's because, hey, riding around in a gator between parks is really cool, no, that isn't going to cut it. But if it's, I need this in order to transport something from one place to the other, otherwise what it is I'm going to have 2 of these things, one at this place and one at this place, then that creates an efficiency, and that is something that is justified. So we will look at everything, but there's a lot that has to be looked at.
Mr. O'Donnell, so what I think, or what Mr. Cavanagh is saying, Councilperson Cavanagh, I think that's great that we're looking at those efficiencies, but for example, with vehicles like you identified, is that a monthly cost? Or like, are we paying, renting them, or is it we buy them outright, right? So if we
Well,
sell,
we buy them outright, but then there is
Yep,
the
there's-
cost of fuel and maintenance and insurance. If you're able to reduce the number of vehicles or the equipment, right, you then lose the maintenance costs, you lose the gas and oil costs, you lose the insurance costs. Okay, so that creates a reduction in that respect. Now, another item coming up later on is our financial system. One of the reasons why we really want this financial system is because we think we can increase efficiencies. So much so that we now have a payroll clerk that we are not going to fill because we believe that there's enough efficiencies within this new financial system that we do not need to fill that. And she's retiring, so it isn't like we're laying her off or anything like that. It's just we're not going to fill that position because we think there's enough efficiencies. And those are the things we need to look at. Is there software that can help us? If there's a lease program that is better for us or something like that, we will look at everything.
so let's say that we don't change it tonight, we keep it at the 90-10, we have to look at reduction, and there's a potential we're still gonna have to look at reduction, or not a
Correct.
potential, there is. We are gonna
There
have to
is. We
continue to
are
look
going to
at
have to.
reduction, whether that's equipment or small cuts or services. We're gonna have to look at
Yep.
reductions. What else may we have to look at?
Those are that. I mean, that's it. I mean,
Not increasing, not bringing like franchise fees back.
Well, okay, so yes,
to increase.
Yeah, without increasing other revenues. But if the only other revenue source available to us that the state has left us, right, and it may be the only source after next year because there is discussion that the local option sales tax, what our citizens vote upon, will be taken over by the state, and they will start distributing the funds to us. And we can still decide where it goes, right? But the state is going to take that over again. And I can guarantee you that at some point we're not going to get what we're getting now, or we're not going to get increases that should be there. So the only other revenue source readily available to us is the franchise fees. That puts a greater burden upon our residents.
So, just real quick to that point there, I know Cole had a meeting with Tim Oswald, our financial planner, advisor, and this was one of the things that he had talked about, was looking at ways that we could increase our revenue sources, whether it was through a change in the local option sales tax, an adjustment in our franchise fee gap, other different revenue sources that might be available. This, I think Cole kind of mentioned this, this is more like a tourniquet. This isn't going to sew up the wound, this is going to slow the bleeding, but it's not going to stop it. So this is a patch to help get us through for the next, well, in this case, 20 years.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes, sir.
If we leave it at 90-10 tonight, can we amend it anytime in the future if we say we gotta do it?
It would require another special election.
Okay?
Which will cost taxpayers money?
There will be a cost, yes, there is a cost to the special election.
I'd like to make a motion to table this and have a special meeting, because what we're discussing now should be done in a special meeting so we know a little bit more about the X's zone. My main concern with the franchise fees, the city promised the citizens that it was gonna go for the areas where we was low in and the pay increases that they have coming. And that was not a priority. So my only concern with putting 10 more cents into that general fund, there's ways that if it's handled better, that the franchise fee should have been the priority to what we told the citizens we were gonna do. But it went to over here because the government said we could. But that don't mean we need to because the government said we could. So I would like to table this till we have a special meeting.
I agree with Doug on that. I mean, I don't know if that's a motion. I'd second that. I'd support that.
Mr. O'Donnell, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I vaguely remember that we are setting this language now because we're on a timeline.
Yes. What I will tell you is that we should have that special meeting soon, because we have to have this 84 days before the actual special election. So that does put us in May. We came a little early because we knew that this discussion was a hot topic, but we would have to have it early in May, because May, June, July, August, we want it, because if there's any further discussion or any further delays, we're pushing it out.
I guess I would just like to clarify too, what else do we want to talk about at the special meeting? We had a special meeting, so what else do we want to clarify? So we have an agenda so we can clearly vote on this. The tabling, the motion, because there was a special meeting to talk about it.
That wasn't what the entire special meeting was about, and I just believe it, and I'm not pushing back. We're talking about people's jobs, we're talking about people's lives, we're talking about different things, and I think it merits more than, half hour at the last meeting and 10 minutes at this one. So, Phil, can we move it to the next special meeting we have and add it to the agenda of the next, so it's soon? I agree it needs to be done. I agree with Councilperson Galloway, it does need to be done quickly.
Understand our next special meeting is actually the
23rd, next Tuesday.
next Tuesday.
That was the work session for the sprinkler,
Yeah.
and I think that's going to have its own length.
Right. And then after that, then there's a special meeting for the audit, and that's over the lunch hour, and so there wouldn't be any discussion there. So the first chance to have a special meeting is going to be into May.
We could do the sprinklers in May. That's not the level of urgency is different. It is urgent.
I just worry that we're postponing this to come to the same exact result at our next council meeting. Because the reality is that we are going to have, it's highly unlikely that we can go back to a 90-10% split. We are going to have to make it for that money in somewhere, and all of these little cuts that we're talking about are beneficial, but they are not going to get us to that bottom line that we need to get to.
Right.
In the end, we will have to do more than that, so having this special election special meeting, thank you, is still not going to get us the same results that have been discussed at this current session.
We really don't know that until we have that meeting, and we all get together and talk about it. So it doesn't have to go anyplace until we have an agreement with the council for everyone to agree to where it's gonna go.
I guess the only comment I'd like to make is I think the council needs to really, what you're talking about on this local option sales tax is, do you want to give the citizens of Ottumwa a 10% property tax relief or 20% property tax relief? That's really what the change is all about.
The county's given 50%.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people in Ottumwa that would like to see further property tax relief. We're still gonna have 80% designated for street improvements and sewer improvements, because we have to keep that going. But I think this is a golden opportunity here again, even though the city for the 4th year has reduced their taxable levies, that we can give more property tax relief to the citizens of Ottumwa. And that's one thing I hear from all kinds of people is, our property taxes are way too high. Why can't you lower them or do something to help with that? This local option sales tax will be one way of giving them further property tax relief. So I think the council needs to think about that, because that's really what the real issue is here.
And that's the only part of this discussion that I'm for, is looking out for the property tax people. My concern, again, is there's ways of putting more money in that general fund. When these developers come into town, we shouldn't be scared that they're gonna leave and start putting a little bit more in our pocket to where they're happy and we're happy. There'd be a lot more money in that general fund right now, just doing that.
Well, part of the problem that the state's presented to us this year is they've taken 3 other separate tax levies now and lumped them all together, and now your general fund is having to pay for 3 other things that it wasn't have to pay for before.
And had we not had franchise fees, we'd be in a bigger hole and a
Yeah.
bigger predicament that we are in. And I think the mayor said it best, is that right now what we're talking about is giving our people of Ottumwa more relief toward their property taxes.
The franchise fee is a whole separate issue
It's
from
a
this local
completely
option sales
separate
tax.
issue. I just wanted to know what would happen, one of the other options for generating revenue.
Right.
Because
And that's-
even if we we become more efficient as a city and we get rid of equipment, we're gonna save some money, we're gonna get some money because we sell stuff, but it's not going to ultimately fix our problem. We have to bring more money in consistently.
Mr. Mayor, if Councilman asked to go to put this on hold, I don't think that's debatable. I
We have
think
to vote
that's-
on it.
Excuse me?
We have to vote on it.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
want to
I
table
don't
it.
disagree with that.
Okay, so,
But the discussion should stop.
okay.
Call for the vote.
Has it been seconded? I don't think.
Yes, it was.
Bill seconded it.
Okay.
He just called the question, so we go to an immediate vote.
Yeah, so we're voting out a table, correct?
Correct.
Crystal, go ahead and take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
No.
Councilmember Galloway?
No.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
3-2, it passes.
So. it's
So next
tabled.
week?
Is there anything the council would like to see before next week or at that meeting next week so that we can be prepared?
Yeah, because
I think you
this
did a
is,
great
this is,
I
presentation in our
think so
last
too.
one, so. bring it.
yeah,
I
this
also-
is basically the same information. I mean, nothing,
Exactly, nothing's changed.
nothing is going to change.
I also would say that now that we are tabling this issue, that other council members should come prepared to discuss those cuts that we are going to make so that we don't have to do this 80-20 split.
Your reduction, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
There are ways to generate money.
Resolution number 83, 2024, setting May 7th, 2024 as the date for a public hearing on the amendment to fiscal year 2024 budget. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 83, 2024.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Ladon.
During the budgeting process, staff re-estimates revenues and expenditures for the current fiscal year based on year-to-date information. Doing so allows a better estimate on ending and beginning balances for the next fiscal year and helps to make new estimates more accurate. To finish the process, the re-estimates are codified in a budget amendment. The amendment for fiscal year 24 is ready for approval. Prior to approval, a public hearing must be held, and staff does recommend May 7th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m.
Does council have any questions for Mr. O'Donnell? If not, Chris will go ahead and take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
Resolution number 92, 2024, authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with Kirkham Michael and Associates Incorporated for survey and design work on the apron and taxiway rehabilitation project at the Ottumwa Regional Airport. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 92, 2024.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Phil, I believe you're going to take this.
So the contract agreement with Kirkham Michael and Associates, Inc. is for the survey and design work for the apron rehabilitation project at the airport. The FAA requires an independent fee estimate, or IFE, to be completed prior to the start of the project. That has been completed by Hadel IFEs LLC out of Overland Park, Kansas, and is also attached. The IFE estimate was $184,700. Kirkham Michael's fee is $172,949 and 69 cents, or $11,750 31 cents, 7% less than the estimate. FAA allows within a 10% difference, so it is an acceptable quote to the FAA. Funding for this would be 90% out of FAA funds and 10% out of the airport fund.
Council have any questions for Phil?
When is this gonna be done? What's the project?
Well, if the council approves it, that would be done as soon as they can get it should be over this summer.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for Phil? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Huffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanagh?
Yes.
Resolution number 93, 2024, confirming $74,245.50 as the termination payment for Greg Wilson doing business as Integrity Golf Group LLC for the operation of Cedar Creek Golf Course and authorizing city staff to release payment. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 93, 2024.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Okay, Phil, I believe you're going to take this item also.
Yeah, so as of the end of last year, Greg Wilson of Integrity Golf had resigned as the operator for Cedar Creek Golf Course. As part of that agreement to operate the course, Wilson is entitled to a termination payment for consideration of capital improvements he'd made to the facility during his tenure. Wilson provided a list of the improvements with his original costs. They were reviewed and adjusted for estimated salvage value and depreciation. Further, had another meeting, subsequent meeting with Wilson. He had agreed that the remaining value of the improvements would be $74,245.50. That amount would be owed per the contract and to be paid for from advance funds to the golf course fund. Funds would be then repaid from future revenue coming into that fund.
Does council have any questions for Phil regarding this item? If not, then Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Huffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanagh?
Yes.
Resolution number 94, 2024, approving contract with Civic Systems LLC for the purchase of a new financial software for the city of Ottumwa. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 94, 2024.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Okay, Mr. O'Donnell.
A request for proposals was issued by staff for financial software system. 4 proposals were received. Of the 4, 2 were determined not to meet requirements or inability to work with other city software, and I did attach in the packet the breakdown. The remaining proposals were evaluated by staff through extensive demonstrations and reference checks. It was determined that Civic Systems LLC best meets the needs of the city for function, ease of use, and upfront and annual costs. The system integrates with Microsoft Excel and will increase the efficiency in data analysis. Additionally, through the use of an online portal, department head and managers will be able to code and submit invoices, create and approve purchase orders, enter annual budget information, and see real-time account balances. These features will provide the departments to better manage their budgets and expenses. Staff requested some changes to the software modules that were included, and so the revised costs are as follows. Connect license fees, so they give us 10 concurrent licenses, which means that 10 people can be on the system at one time. $54,300. Setup, conversion, and project management estimates, $28,200. Training, $14,400. And the first year of our annual support, which is Software for Life, is $13,375 for a total cost of $110,275. They do estimate their travel costs at $227,000, which brings us around $114,000, $114 and a half in change. The annual support is $13,375 and includes software updates for life. This will not be a need to upgrade to a new system in the future, as new versions are included in the support. Previous systems even with this software, what it is they come out with a new product and it was, hey, you got to purchase a new product. This will make annual updates, and so that we'll always have the newest software every year. The cost of the initial investment less the training will be paid for from the 2024 general obligation bond. The contract requires half the investment to be paid up front. These funds will be paid from the general fund in fiscal 24 and reimbursed once the bonds are received.
Who are some of the other cities that you got references from that use this software?
trying to think who used Civic, because I was talking to both of them. What I will tell you is that when you called the references, whether it was for Tyler Technologies or for Civic, they both loved the systems. We did get an unsolicited reference because I put it out on the manager's listserv, and we got it. The finance director for Altoona is working with Civic at Altoona, but had worked with Tyler at Indianola, and so he was able to give us a really good bit for bit the differences and the ease. And he didn't really express a preference, but if you read through the in between the lines, I think there was a preference of Civic, in that they were also moving to the new version of Civic, the one that we're buying, and so they saw the integration with Microsoft Excel and some of the other features. I will tell you that Tyler Technology did also have a portal for department managers to get onto, but in the evaluation that we did, I think there was somewhat of a consensus that perhaps Civic was a little simpler to use for the department heads. Tyler was a little more technical, and some of the information was such that things could get lost, where Civic was easier to use for the department heads. And they did came in and got the demonstration on the portal as well. So they gave us input on the portal.
I'm really glad to see that the city has really spent a lot of time exploring new updated financial software, because the old system that we currently use now is so antiquated and so outdated. It requires so much manual input that this new system will save a tremendous amount of staff time, and like you said, Cole, allow managers and department heads to have much more fluid handle on their budgets month in and month out. If we'd had some of this software in place 2 years ago, we wouldn't have had all the problems we had in the last year and a half with all the financial dishevel that we've had to go through. So
I would agree with that.
I really appreciate that you and your team have really spent a lot of time vetting these software programs out, because the city is long overdue for an updated financial platform.
Thank you. Councilmember?
Mr. O'Donnell, is there a limited number of people they will train? And how much training will they get? Will they have to come back more than once, or is it a one-time deal? Or?
I'm not sure if it's all at once, but the financial team will be trained on the components that it'll be using. If there are any components outside of that another department will be using, they'll receive training. All of the department heads and managers will receive training on the portal.
And if I remember right, I think the proposal indicated that they would stay with the training component for upwards of a whole year.
Yes.
To get everybody totally
Yes.
trained and implemented.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Council have any other questions for Mr. O'Donnell regarding this new financial software? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
Resolution number 98, 2024, determining the necessity and fixing a date for a public hearing on the matter of the adoption of a proposed amendment number 1 to the amended and restated Ottumwa Urban Revitalization Plan. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 98, 2024.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
And Mr. Simonson, you're
All right. Thank you, Mayor. This is also on the theme of things we didn't ask the legislature for, but we got anyway. They passed some legislation last year which affects how cities have the authority to use urban revitalization to provide tax abatement. Back in February, you would have heard the resolution that approved all the tax abatements for the previous year. This can be up to 100% for 3 years for residential improvements that improve the value over 10%. There's also a commercial scale. There's also a multifamily scale. The legislature has decided that they want to exempt any schools or any taxes paid to the school district from abatement. So your abatement will be 100% of your new taxes, except for the taxes you pay to the school district. Those will go up and won't be abated. And so in order to accommodate that, and then a second change, which just requires us to use minimum assessment agreements for commercial abatements to make sure that the value is what the assessor will approve for the abatement. That one's not necessarily doesn't harm the abatement. It does add process and it's going to add us cost, but it doesn't harm the abatement for the user. But to accommodate those two changes from the legislature, we have to amend our urban revitalization plan so that our language reflects what the state law requires. We will also have to update our forms for tax abatement as well.
Does council have any questions?
Oh, and then I should say this resolution is not approving that. This is just setting dates for a consultation meeting and a public hearing. I think actually just a public hearing. There isn't a consultation meeting on this. Yeah.
And the public hearing date's May 7th, 2024. Any further questions, comments from council? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
Resolution number 99, 2024, approving change order number 1 and accepting the work as final and complete and approving the final pay request for the asbestos abatement City Hall building project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 99, 2024.
Move the recommendation.
Mr. Bergmeyer.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So this project was to remove asbestos from City Hall in preparation for the renovation project. All the asbestos was removed that was included under the original contract, and there's an amendment or a change order on here. We were tearing a wall out in the basement and found some asbestos-coated pipe behind that wall. And in that bathroom, there was a platform by the sinks for some reason, and there was asbestos-containing tile underneath that platform that we didn't know was there. So that was the change order. But all that work is complete. So, any questions?
Council have any questions for Philip?
Are we still looking at the early part of next year to get back into City Hall?
Yes, I think so.
Good.
Yeah. Like I said before, that one piece of equipment we were worried about is coming in on time. It won't accelerate the project, I don't think, but it's gonna not delay it anymore. So that's good news.
Great.
If there's no other questions, then Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution number 101, 2024, fixing May 7th, 2024 as the date for a public hearing on the proposal to convey certain real property locally known as 119 West 5th Street, Ottumwa, Iowa, to John and Noma Woodenberg. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 101, 2024.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Simonson.
All right, this one I think should be easy. At the last council meeting, we had resolutions setting public hearings for 3 things. 2 of those ended up getting published. This one didn't make it in the paper. And so this is just a resolution to set this instead for May 7th. This is a property we also secured under Section 657A. This one's only a little bit different, and we can discuss more of it at the next meeting, but there was a purchase agreement that was entered into during the course of that litigation, and to resolve any title issues, our attorneys recommended that we just sell it to that original buyer instead of accepting bids, and we have some justification for that in the resolution. So.
And what was that dollar amount?
That dollar amount is $15,000.
Very good.
Any other questions from council for Zach? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Basu?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavaness?
Yes.
Okay, this is the time in our city council meeting where I'd ask if anybody in the audience would like to speak on any items that are not on our agenda tonight. The council won't be able to take any action on those items since it's not on the agenda, but we still always afford people an opportunity to bring up any non-agenda items that they'd like to bring to the attention of the council. Okay, if not any, then we don't have, does city council, I don't have any specific report to make. Does the city council have any report or communications that they want to make to the public at this point?
Yeah, I just want some quick thank yous of appreciation. My 9th grade students are in a community journeys unit where they investigate the community and they problem solve issues that they see. And so as part of their project and their essay, they have to get feedback from leaders within the community. And they sent their emails out this week, and I just want to give a huge thank you to all of our city staff who have been communicating with my students and giving them good feedback. I really appreciate it, and they are super excited to talk with important people and get some good information from you. So thank you for taking the time out to do that.
I also would like to give a shout out to our dispatchers, both city and county dispatchers at the Joint Law Enforcement Center. This is National Dispatcher Recognition Week nationwide. And for the last several years, I believe Police Chief Arrington and Sheriff Phillips have co-sponsored a nice staff barbecue over the noon hour to recognize the dispatchers and their hard work that they do throughout the year. That's a very stressful job to do day in and day out, and they're a critical part of our joint law enforcement system in Ottumwa and Wapello County. So that grilling out is going to occur this Thursday from 11 to 1 at the Joint Law Enforcement Center here in Ottumwa. So if any of you know of any city or county dispatch people, be sure to give them a pat on the back and thank them for a job well done, because they really work very hard throughout the whole course of the year. Without them, the police and fire and everybody couldn't respond quickly. It's a really stressful job. I wouldn't want to do it, but I'm glad there's people that do. Anybody else have anything they would like to bring up?
What was the date that we decided for our next meeting to discuss the law stack?
The 23rd,
Next Tuesday.
next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Okay.
It'll be a work session, so they can't take any action.
Well, they could always pull that item off the table and vote on it
Well, that's true, I guess.
after discussion, because it'll be on the agenda too.
Perfect.
Mr.
Okay,
Mayor, I just like to give an update. They moved our water board meeting. I was going to update everybody on that tonight. They moved it till next week. The library, I go to the library trustee meeting, and they're doing some great things down there. If you get a chance, like I always say, go to the library. That's the board I sit in on, and they're doing some great things. I won't go into specifics, but I got to see my first challenge, somebody who challenged a book, and that process and the professional way they handled it. So yeah, we have a great library board. We have a great library staff, and I've enjoyed going and keeping you updated. And before the mayor brought that up, I was going to bring that up tonight, Chief Arrington, too, about the dispatchers. Being a volunteer fireman in EMS in my life, I mean, you have no idea what a key role they play in everybody's safety. Just for example, I just got done with the Citizens Police Academy, and they let us listen to some of the calls. When you're a responder and you don't actually hear the calls, and then you hear the calls, yeah, you see what they go through. Not only that, they're getting 10 calls at one time. They get 15 people radioing them. So our entire police department, our dispatching staff, our fire department, all our emergency services, EMS, do an outstanding job, and I shout their praises every day. So thanks for everything they do and you guys do.
And I guess since Bill brought this up, I don't have a lot of specifics, but I guess I would just mention to the public that the Waterworks Board of Trustees is still trying to do their due diligence and trying to figure out what all the total costs are going to be involving bringing the hydro dam up to compliance at all levels. And I believe they have a team of scuba divers and stuff here this week that's going to do all the underwater surveying and looking at all the concrete beams and everything under the river. That's the other piece that they still need to get cost estimates for. And they're here this whole week. And I think once they get all that put together, hopefully in the next month or so, then the Waterworks Board of Trustees is really going to have some real hard decisions about how much is the total project going to cost? Do we want to try go after congressional funding, grants? They have to have a plan in place, I believe, by December of 2024.
Right, and I would like the public to know that's not a decision they're taking lightly at all. They're losing sleep over that. They know how important it is to the community, so just to throw that in there.
Yeah. So
And they
there'll
have been
be-
working with their legislators to see if we can get some assistance either state or federal.
Yeah, there'll be more information to come over the next several weeks, but, yeah, they're gonna have some tough decisions to be trying to make over the next several months. It's gonna be several millions of dollars from what I'm hearing that it's gonna take to fix everything that needs to be fixed on the hydro dam. Anybody have any other?
Mayor, will that meeting on the 23rd be at the depot or here at Bridgeview?
Planned on having it at the
It'll
depot.
be a work session,
Good.
yeah, so it'll be at the depot conference room.
All right, thank
Okay,
you.
at this point, we are gonna take a recess of the Ottumwa City Council meeting. We're gonna rearrange the room and we're gonna go into a closed session for a little while to discuss a couple issues. And then we will come out of closed session and then we will adjourn the city council meeting tonight. So, thank you, everybody, for coming and appreciate your participation and your attendance tonight.